How are we doing now?
Okay, we all running? Fire away then.
I think Martin wants to take the lead.
Martin, the usual.
Any injury news, Gary?
That's an insightful question there, Martin. Not that I want to mention today. No, I'm trying to think. Sam Cluse has trained today. Looked very good in training, so that's a positive. Obviously, the weekend's game, I'm pretty sure, will be too quick unless he's electric tomorrow and we decide to throw him in very, very early. But it's nice to see him out there. Peter Etterbo trained also, so again, nice to see him out there. There's just one or two with little knocks that didn't train today. Often you find that, I know it's a bit of a buzzword, but most teams, I almost don't want to say it myself, but most teams do a bit of a second day recovery, so that they'll have a day off or a recovery day the next day after the game, particularly on an evening game. And then the Thursday they'll come and just do a little bit. You know, you wouldn't ask the players normally to do a full session, less than 48 hours after the game, because I think energy is going to be a big factor for the weekend's game. So, but they've worked for, the ones who've started worked for about 45 minutes, and then the rest have worked for another 45. Worked really hard with some of the younger players. So certainly coming in tomorrow, they'll all be ready. I think physically ready to go again for another away game.
Mum, you?
Mam's not back yet. Mam's still his hamstring. So again, Tyrese Campbell came off in the 23s game at half time. We were always looking to bring him off at half time anyway, because he would have travelled as part of the squad for the game on Tuesday, but because we're conscious we want to still give him game time. He needs the game time for his fitness. It's always a funny one for a young player. If they're in and out of the squad, then they'll play 45 minutes, but his plan was to play 45, but he ended up coming off at half time anyway. I think we're just a tight hamstring also, so he's not fit at the moment.
Gary, the team pinched a point really at Sheffield, and we're all delighted that we pinched that point. You watched from a different vantage point.
Yep.
Did you see anything that otherwise you haven't noticed when you're at ground level?
No, not really. I mean, I think, look, the Championship is such that, we've had plenty of points pinched off us this season. I think in games where we perhaps feel like we deserve to win more points. If you look at the Birmingham game, for an example, we had points pinched off us in that game, and that's just how the games work, don't they? So I thought at times we defended the box really well. I think we've started to look a lot more solid. Yes, we conceded a little bit of space. I think a lot of teams will do that against Sheffield United, particularly at Bramwell Lane, just because of the way they play. And I thought there were times when we could have done that a little bit better. We could have, not allowed them to get into the final third quite so easy, but they didn't really, there wasn't really many. I think there was one good chance early on where we switched off, where the lad's side foots it over. But other than that, there weren't too many clear-cut chances, which again is sometimes part of an away performance. What I would say on a positive note, and I said it after the game, is that I think 4 away games unbeaten, where you could conceivably put the Rotherham and the Sheff Wednesday game into saying we probably did enough to win those games. But we're starting to look a little bit more solid and a little bit more resilient. We're certainly coming back in games, but what we now want to do is we want to find that last 15 minutes of excellent response from an attacking perspective, and we want to start to put that into earlier in the games, and maybe that's a bit of mentality, belief, whatever you call it, because I think the team are working hard. I think we're working hard. I think we're showing some good signs in games, but it's just that last I spoke after the game about that last 5% of whatever you want to call it, urgency, tempo, drive, whatever it is, just to get a little bit out that we know we've got.
It's quite often said that talent win matches, but teamwork and intelligence win championships. To have decent teamwork, you need to have confidence, and Joe Allen said at the end of the game the other night that he didn't think we were as confident as we should be, and whilst I know you're probably doing everything you can to change that.
Yeah.
Do you think part of the problem is some of the players think they're better than they are?
I think it's a hard one, because it's quite a sweeping statement. I think maybe at times in games perhaps we haven't quite found that balance yet, that means that regardless of how good we are, we have to, I've spoke about it before, we have to earn every single thing we get in this division. And we've had games where, you look at the Norwich game, certainly that was a a defensive performance full of humility, full of drive for each other. I certainly didn't think we felt we were better than we are then. But then of course you win a couple of games and perform better. But sometimes, you perhaps don't have the extra little bit of edge that's needed because it's a difficult division, and we've said it before, that when we end up keeping a clean sheet every game and then our attackers go and win us the matches, then we know we found the right balance. So I don't believe the players think they're better than they are. I think occasionally we've just needed that extra little bit of intelligent effort, intelligent work rate, intelligent team shape, to manage some of the games a little bit better. You could argue, you can look at the Birmingham game as a case in point. We defend really well all game, and it's just that last little bit. But we switch off for 5 seconds, and that 5 seconds costs us the game. So certainly we've got to be better at doing that.
We wouldn't say that we had the paciest back four, but when Tom Edwards came on, he made a big difference, didn't he? He helped increase the energy for those last few minutes, and you moved McLean further back as well, and we seemed to be a better unit then. Yeah,
well, I think, obviously Kuko had the injury in the previous game against Birmingham, and we wanted to give him the opportunity to be fit for the game, and he felt fine. The medical team thought he was fine. I don't think it was necessarily a massive problem. I felt as though maybe our fullbacks could have given us a little bit more attacking impetus at times. We spoke to them about that because it was that type of game. I know it's away from home and you perhaps don't want to always take as much risks, but when you're playing against a team with wing backs, often you can capitalise on those areas 2v1, and we certainly felt we could have done that a lot better. So late on in the game, of course, that's an area where you feel you can get some joy, particularly when Crouchy comes on, because the first thing they do is they narrow up a little bit as certainly a central defensive pairing, or the three to deal with him. Tends to drag a couple of people away with him, which then in turn gives you a little bit more space wide. So we knew that was the space we needed to exploit. I think young Tom gets forward really well. At that point, you kind of want a 19-year-old's legs on the pitch, because he gets forward well, and we needed that impetus that side. That's why I spoke after the game about sometimes the perception of putting a defender on for a defender. It's not an archetypal sub, is it, when you've got 15 minutes to go? But the reality is we needed good balls in the box, and we needed to utilise that space. So yeah, and I think Macca's always going to do that wherever he plays. So just gave us an opportunity not to take a Macca off and put Bojan on. We could keep Macca on and put Bojan on, and see if we can add a little bit more attacking sort of speed, I suppose.
Fans who were watching the Sheffield United game, they didn't probably get your view from the gantry, but they were very critical after the game. However, looking at the thing the other way, to get an away point at the league leaders is quite an accomplishment. Have you had trouble sort of managing the expectations of supporters?
I think I've said it before, it's not my job to manage the expectations. The first time I've heard of the fans' opinion of the game is you telling me. It's not something that I'm seeking, or I don't read message boards, I don't look at social media. I think you have to always try and have your own view of what it is. Of course, the fans' opinion is important, and you understand that, but for me, it's. I think so. Look, sometimes you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. We played early in the season against West Brom. We had plenty of the ball. We had plenty of attacking threat. We left ourselves open and got done on at least one counter attack. So we then go to Norwich and are very, very resolute, but don't use the ball as well. We get a 0-0. We win the game 1-0 because we scored a goal. Everyone thinks it's a perfect away performance. We go and get a 1-1 draw. We concede a free kick against Sheffield United. So it's not as though we've been cut to ribbons. We concede a free kick. We score a very good free kick of our own. We get a point, and people are critical. So you can't control that. I think the expectations are that we're Stoke City. We've spent plenty of money in the summer. We feel as though we should be higher than where we are. So until you're sat in the top 6, until we're sat in the top 2, the reality is people are always going to be a little bit disappointed, underwhelmed, whatever the phrase you want to use. For us, it's never that simple. It's never that easy. I can give you a list of names of teams that have gone from the Premier League straight down into League One. I can give you a list of names of some that have bounced back up, and I can give you a list of some that have maybe found it a little bit more difficult to hit the ground as early as they want. At the moment, we've been one of those teams, but I still see, I see an increased resilience away from home. I see improved defensive performances. We've conceded 2 goals in 4 games. We were speaking about conceding silly goals all the time earlier in the season, so we've tried to improve that. What we've now probably got to find the balance is creating more opportunities clear cut for the amount of possession that we've had, and maybe playing on the front foot a little bit earlier in games. So I think it's always a balancing act, but the perception, the expectation is always going to be there when you take this type of job. So you that's in the background, you accept it. I've said it before, we've lost a game, I've come out and said, I'll take responsibility for it. That's the manager's job. What you can't do sometimes is you can't magic a wand and fix things instantly as much as you'd like, because at the moment, we've been a little inconsistent, and we've got to keep working really hard to try and change that, because again, the game, I think Sheffield Wednesday were in the playoff positions at the start of the week. They're now not that much different to where we are, so that's how a week can change in this division.
I think you're right. Obviously, you can't wave a magic wand, but one of the things, the criticisms that came through, and I'll try and...
you're not going to do the old one, use the fans' Twitter as your question?
Absolutely. I'm going to use
okay.
the fans' Twitter as the question, because I actually agree with these, and it says
Right.
every throw we take goes knee high. Every throw they took, they worked an overlap. Do we train this? And another one was talking about corners, and do we practice those?
Right. Yeah, no, we've got 8 coaches, but we don't do any of that work whatsoever. We don't. We just turn up and hope we win the game.
Oh, right.
That's what we do every week. Yeah. Of course we practice those, I don't quite understand the question. Every throw in we're talking about.
That's what he's saying. And,
Yeah. Well, if you pass my number on, if he wants to give me a call, I'll have a chat with him later, because the problem with that is I respect the fact that you're asking that question, but we ask every social media question that gets put out there. It's the reality is I'm not going to answer those type of questions.
I think it was just the consistency of it. It had actually come through from quite a lot of people, actually.
Yeah.
But that's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
But to move on to Bristol City, one thing that we will be looking to, of course, in the last couple of games that they've won 1-0 with very late goals.
Yeah.
I assume you're ready for that scenario as well.
We're ready for every scenario. We're pretty well prepared. I think we're pretty well. We work incredibly hard during the week. I think every manager will say the same. You can't always guarantee that always reflects in the performance, because that's the inconsistency of the job. If there was an easy solution, you'd win every game and you'd be sat on the top of the league, and all the other teams would be disappointed with their work. So, but we work incredibly hard. Every solution we've worked on, everything we try to get across to the players, and we'll continue to do that to keep improving. So, if a team scores late goals, the problem with that is it doesn't necessarily mean that they won't score at a different time. So, your aim is just to basically stop the opposition from scoring and to impose your game on them. It's a difficult place to go, but every away game is a difficult place to go in this division. I've said it before, we've got the quality of players that we shouldn't fear any game, but we've got to start to win games of football. It's as simple as that.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not off Twitter.
No, it's fine.
Some of the other clubs are saying, Stoke will come good, Stoke are really good. I expect Stoke to be in and around at the end of the season. How frustrated are you that Stoke aren't coming as good as they should be now? And if we carry on as we are, where somebody's scoring against us and then the shackles come off and we go hell for leather, could I ask that we let them score after the first minute and then we spend the...
Get it out of the way.
No, seriously. Yeah. How frustrating is it for you that the expectations from other clubs outside may influence how our fans, I know you say you don't listen to what they say, but it is having an effect on what our fans believe we should be doing at the moment?
Yeah, look, I think that I believe that people are saying, when I speak to other managers, I believe that people are saying that because they can see that we've actually, contrary to what may be a general opinion sometimes, if you concede a goal and lose a game, my opinion of it is that they can see that, you know, we're creating some good chances in games. We've had opportunities to win games. We've played well in quite a lot of games. You know, I defy anyone to watch the Rotherham away first half and the Sheffield away. I know there's so many more elements to a game, but what the point I'm making is, I think they see that actually, you know, we probably see some of the decisions that have gone against us. We probably deserve to be higher in the table than we are. I know you don't get always what you deserve, which we found this season, but I think that's why they're saying it. You know, my opinion is it's not just a nice thing. It's not because we've spent money. It's because they can genuinely see, you know, but we should be higher in the league and potentially deserve to be a little bit on the balance of some of the games. What I would say, yes, it's frustrating, but I don't think the problem for a manager is, you know, frustration doesn't really help you. I'll be open and say that times this season I've probably got frustrated quicker than I normally would, because I can see what the players are capable of doing, and I've spoke to them about that. But again, I've got great belief that you know, if we can just find that extra little bit of whatever it is that will make us respond earlier, whatever it is that will make us attack in the way that you know, we do when we're chasing a game. You know, I don't think that's necessarily always tactical, because sometimes those moments are emotional and it's your reaction. You know, then I believe we'll get what we deserve. You know, so yeah, it can be frustrating, but I don't. The problem with frustration is it doesn't get you any more points. You know, and it gets you a £2,000 fine and a one-match ban. So frustration is not a word I intend to let fester for very long on a match day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.